Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Wald, the Blood Detective, and today the title of the podcast is How Long Will You Live? Try These Tests. So I'm going to be speaking about different tests that are extremely predictive for how long a person will live and how well a person will live in what's known as the non-disability stage of life. So a lot of these tests you can do on your own, and you'll see that in a minute. And a few of them you'll need some experts. So let's get right into this. To begin with, I'm a doctor of chiropractic with a master's degree and board certification in nutrition. I'm also a dietitian and sports nutritionist. I provide acupuncture to my clients and life coaching, and I am a medical school graduate, but I do not have a license to practice medicine. So this information that we'll be discussing here, it'll be brief, but very, very informative. And you're going to see too, because if you try some of these tests and then you make some adjustments in your lifestyle and reperform these tests, you can statistically know that you've increased your life and health span. So this information is for your education. It's not meant as a substitute for sound medical or health advice. So what's the first test that's considered the gold standard, the very best test predictor of lifespan and health span in human beings? It's right here, VO2 max, which is a cardio fitness test. It is the most predictive biomarker. No other biomarker, no other test that can be done on a human being is as predictive as this for, again, as I'll say a number of times, of increasing the number of years of life and the quality of those years. So how is the VO2 max test performed? So it's performed in a clinical setting under using a treadmill or a stationary bike, either one will do. And the subject wears a mask on his or her face connected to a machine that measures oxygen use during gradually increasing exercise efforts all the way to exhaustion. Now, why is VO2 max testing so predictive of health and lifespan? Well, VO2 max reflects the efficiency of your heart, your lungs, and your muscles. So that's all these major organ systems that obviously have to do with quality of life and length of life, and they are assessed very well in this single test. VO2 max is consistently linked to lower risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and early death from a variety of causes. It's considered the strongest independent risk factor of lifespan in the fitness science arena. So that's the first biomarker. Now, the rest of these tests are not necessarily in best to worst order because that's not really very well laid out in the scientific literature on these, but these are very strong biomarkers, very similarly to VO2 max. Each of them predicts lifespan and health span. So if you do a number of these tests, you can get a greater and greater and more accurate assessment of your health span. So the next test is grip strength. So this is one of those that you can do at home. You can buy a grip strength tester on the web very, very easily. So how is the grip strength test performed? So what you do is you use what's known as a dynamometer. You hold that in your hand, and the person squeezes it with maximum effort, usually 2 or 3 times, and the effort with the highest amount of pressure is recorded. So why is this simple test so predictive of morbidity and mortality? Low grip strength is linked to higher mortality from heart disease, cancer, and respiratory illness. For example, if you have respiratory illness or you have a heart disease, the circulation to your arms and muscles, for example, will be affected, and that will ultimately affect your strength. So that's how the strength is so predictive indirectly of cardiovascular and, let's say, lung health, but also the same with cancer and obviously respiratory illnesses. Even inflammation is associated with poor scores on this dynamometer test. The next one is gait speed test. So this is very, very easy to do. It doesn't cost any money. How is it performed? So you measure the time it takes to walk 3 to 4 meters at a normal pace. Speed is calculated in meters per second, and a speed below 0.8 meters per second is concerning in older adults. Why is this gait speed test so predictive, again, of health span and lifespan? Walking speed reflects muscle power, joint health, neurological coordination, and cardiovascular reserve. Slower speeds predict higher risk of disability, hospitalization, and death. So if you perform a variety of these tests on your own over a period of time, and you start to see some of these results getting worse and worse, that's time to take a look. And then you do what it is you need to do to improve your health, and you continue to perform these tests, and you do them on a regular basis so you can catch problems early. And regular physicians, even many holistic physicians, they do not do these tests on a regular basis. Sitting and rising test. So how is this performed? Pretty easy, right? You start standing and then you sit cross-legged if you can on the floor and raise back up. Points are deducted starting from 10 for each hand, knee, or body part used for support. So why is this simple test so predictive again? It assesses balance, strength, and flexibility in a single motion. Lower scores correlate with fragility and higher mortality. It's a big deal, particularly from falls and chronic disease. And what I've done here is given you a few additional tests, what I call blood detective biomarkers, and I'll just quickly go through them so you know about them. The first one was a cardio beam test. It's a non-invasive test where a little clip is put on the tip of the finger, and we've got a waveform that goes through the entire circulation of the body, and it assesses the thickness of the blood, the flow of blood, and also the biological age of your entire cardiovascular system. And it does this in just a few minutes. So if you want to know if your fish oil is working, or your plant-based diet, or your exercise plan for reducing your morbidity and mortality and helping your cardiovascular system, you can do a cardio beam test and know your biological age, and you can improve it sometimes by decades. Then a body composition analysis, that's also right under the VO2 max test as the most important one because it measures lean body mass. And there is a direct association between a gain in lean body mass, which are the muscles and the organs, a gain in lean body mass, and an extension of lifespan and also health span. Malabsorption test, I put it there because, when I work with a person and they see me after years of seeing other people in my field, and I ask them, have you ever had a test of your absorption or malabsorption potential? And they say, what is that? No. I know whoever they were seeing is an idiot. So it's on the list. Next, Achilles bone density test. Your bone density is important. Loss of bone density also tends to correlate with loss of vasculature, neurologic function, and muscle power. So anything you do that really does improve your bone density should reduce your overall morbidity and mortality unless you're using medications to improve bone mass. And that's a whole other controversial topic. Maybe we'll cover that in a future podcast. And finally, blood pH. People say to me all the time, Dr. Wald, should I eat an alkaline diet? I should be alkaline, right? This is a meaningless statement, and I'll teach you why that is in 60 seconds or less. We are alkaline in our mouths to break down starch with the amylase enzyme. We need stomach acid in our stomachs to break down, let's say, proteins, to ionize calcium, to absorb iron. We need to be on the alkaline end in the large intestine. In the urine, we need to be on the acid side. And the blood pH, both arterial and venous blood, should be roughly to the left of neutral, like 7.35 to 7.45. So being alkaline makes no sense physiologically. Eating foods that are alkaline may help you become acid in places you should become acid, and alkaline in others. But my final point here now is that blood pH is an indicator of health of a lot of different organs. And I do have an entire podcast on that called pH Lies. You may want to look at that on my website at drmichaelwald.com or any podcast platform. Just type in Ask the Blood Detective. Well, I hope that this was useful for all of you. And again, I'd like to thank you for the great ideas. When I sit with my clients, they'll sometimes just say a thing, and it reminds me of a podcast to do. And we all get a kick out of it here because lots of these podcasts are titled after ideas from my clients and also from you out there. So thank you. See you at the next one.